Anne Marie, the majority of the deaths in this area have been related to nursing homes, which probably isn't a surprise. The most vulnerable population lives in nursing homes. Sometimes the quarters in nursing homes are somewhat tight. Is that the reason for so many deaths in the nursing homes?
Yes, you have the majority of them tend to be 80 or older. We have in our local long-term care, they have residents in their 90s and even some 100s. And so they're frail and fragile, and most of them also have a lot of comorbidities. So they have the chronic health care, they have immune deficiencies. So unfortunately, it was something that it impacts them more severely, which we expected, unfortunately, and were concerned about.
The numbers, I'm happy to say, have decreased dramatically. Is that due in part because the nursing homes shut their doors, did not allow visitors in, and therefore new cases weren't being brought into the building?
Well, I have to say, I think a lot of it had to do with the social distance and mask wearing, but also in the general population. Because for North Attleboro, our numbers were at 260, so maybe 80 of that was related to the long-term care. Between staff and residents and things like that, that's still, almost 200 cases in the community that were not related to long-term care. Once people started distancing, staying at home, you weren't having that potential for spread. That we know still is something that can happen, but there are still some long-term cares that are coming on board, and I think that is where we're seeing some of the numbers, and particularly with the deaths. But it's a frail population, and they're impacted a lot.
Governor Charlie Baker on Saturday, June 6th, announced that Phase 2, Step 1,
yes,
would begin on Monday. Part of that is the opening of restaurants for outdoor dining. As we start to take these specific steps, does it worry you at all that people might take for granted that everything's okay again?
Yes, unfortunately, it absolutely is. I'm having calls really almost a daily basis from people saying, I was at so-and-so's store and nobody was wearing masks. The staff are, because that's one of the first things I ask is, well, were the staff? No, the staff are, but people going in. And there are, stories of people who are saying they aren't wearing masks because they have a medical issue, but they in fact don't. And they'll tell someone that. It's an abuse. People have been so restricted. They're glad to be out. They want to breathe freely. They're feeling that since the numbers are going down so much, which they have, that means that there's no more virus in the area. So it's okay. But as we begin to go into crowds again, it's not going to be okay. And that's what we're going to be concerned. I'm actually very pleased that it's been 2 weeks since Memorial Day with some Memorial Day parties, and really I've just had one case. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I think it shows that there is less viral load and that people are still taking enough precautions. But I am a little concerned.
There was a map shown on the Today Show this morning, Thursday, June 11th, and it showed areas or states where the numbers are starting to spike again. California, and then the majority of the South. Well, with the exception of California, these are states that started to reopen with very few restrictions. And I guess the lesson to be learned is, opening is fine, but you still have to wear the mask and take the other precautions.
Right, to be aware of it. Yes, we can go out to eat. Very excited. I actually My husband and I went out to eat for our anniversary. We were in Rhode Island, which opened a little sooner, but it was outdoor. They had plenty of spaces between the tables. The wait staff wore a mask. We wore our mask when we were ordering. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience, and I was glad to be able to get out. And I know everybody wants that. And we know that the businesses have been impacted, and we want them to be able to begin again. But we just want people to be careful. Just continue to be cautious about wearing that mask when you're in close quarters, because you don't know where that person has been. You don't know if they're asymptomatic and have the virus, and they don't know that about you either. So something to keep in mind.
It reminds me of growing up, sexually transmitted diseases. The person you slept with might have slept with this person. It's the exact same thing.
Right.
Probably magnified.
Right, it is. Because actually it is a virus that is easily transmitted. They feel that there's, one case can transmit to 4 others. And that's what they talk about, trying to get that herd immunity. That if you can get 3 people in a group of 4 that have had it, then that 4th person is probably going to be okay, because there will be less exposure. But you have to either have had the disease, or in fact, when we get a vaccine, have a vaccine. And I think part of the difficult for people is a lot of people don't know anybody who's been sick. They've been hearing, oh, this is really bad, stay home, don't do this, and they don't know anyone who's been sick. If they did, they would probably take it more seriously and understand the consequences.